Well, hello. I have such a treat for you today. This episode, I had such a juicy conversation. I think you're going to love it. My guest today is Tanya Dyer, Esquire. So she is a lawyer and she deals with alpha women. So topics like what we covered was what strong, smart women don't know about why you struggle in romantic relationships. It's your pattern, not the people. Wow, mind blowing. She talks about your origin story. So if you identify with being an alpha woman, if you're involved with an alpha woman, I think you are going to love this episode. There are so many amazing details. You'll learn all about what an alpha woman is, what are the patterns of an alpha woman. That's someone, if you identify as someone who is an overfunctioner, an overgiver, an overdoer, you might be very successful, but you might also be suffering the way that Tanya talks about in this interview. So I hope you enjoy my chat with Tanya Dyer, Esquire. Tanya Dyer, welcome to the Terri Cole Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
We're so excited too. We're all like, what questions are we going to ask her? So let's just start with, I told the audience a little bit about your story, but I actually kind of want to hear it from you. So you are a lawyer dealing with highly conflictual divorces. And specifically, you talk about alpha women. So do me a favor, just tell me how you got here, and then we'll talk more about what you do.
Yes. That very famous line, your mess becomes your message. It was just my life, Terri. It was just me. So I'm an alpha. I did not know what I was. I did not know who I was. I didn't know that I had a thing or a bucket. I just thought I was this crazy little unicorn running around having all of these novel, unique, and original problems that I personally, by myself, of course, had to solve. So, I was running my own high conflict divorce law firm. I was married. Obviously, that wasn't going well. Alpha women left to their own devices fall into some very specific patterns that I want to talk to you about, because if you know what they are, you can spot them.
Yep. I want to say one thing quickly.
Yeah.
If someone listening or watching this on YouTube does not know what an alpha woman is, would you please tell us and then continue?
Oh, God bless you. All right. So you're sitting here, you're wondering, wait a second, this crazy woman is rambling on. Am I even an alpha woman? If you have been described as the extremes, you're too smart, too brave, too strong, too bold, too busy, too opinionated, too aggressive, too assertive, too intelligent, too beautiful. Yes, you're probably an alpha. But the true way you know an alpha is her origin story.
Ooh, let's go there.
Okay. All right. So what I found in my work, oh my goodness, after decades of working with women, is that alphas have a very consistent start. The start is something that happens in your family of origin that immediately breaches trust, usually as a little girl. It's somebody in your life that was supposed to be loving you and protecting you and giving you love that failed you. So when this thing happens, and it doesn't matter what it is, when this thing happens, you learn, oh my goodness, I'm on my own. Oh my goodness, it's me against them, and I have to take care of myself. And alphas, you're the child that grew up and you didn't really have a childhood. You were a tiny adult. Usually you were taking care of your mom, you were taking care of your dad, you were taking care of your siblings. And you learned to start suppressing your emotions and feelings immediately because being vulnerable was dangerous. And you develop these huge coping skills where you become a master of organization, crisis management, and analysis. That's an alpha.
Oh my God. I wonder how many people listening are like, oh my God, me. Yes. All right. So that was super helpful. So go back to your story. So you were at the point of saying you were in a marriage, it wasn't going well. And then?
So I did what every alpha would do. I tried to save my marriage, which meant I did everything. I read the books, I took the courses, I took the classes, we got the marriage counselor, and really what I'm doing is I'm shoving and I'm pushing and I'm begging. I tell the 4 C's of a diamond, you do the other C's. You do crying, you do communicating, you do counseling, you're sitting here like, oh my goodness, I'm going to command you. You're doing all of the C's trying to save your marriage, and it doesn't work. and you can't understand why you can make your business work, where you can write books, okay? And you can manage things that are impossible in the world and you can make money, but you can't make love work. That's where you get stuck.
Wow, that's amazing. So what happened after the first marriage ended then?
So first marriage ended, and I did what any responsible alpha who's also a coach would do. I threw myself into the perfection of me. I'm like, I'm going to fix this. Okay. I smithed myself. I did everything I could do. I spent tens of thousands of dollars, ladies, doing all of this stuff. And then I meet the next guy, my current husband, and I'm so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, here he is. He's my guy. He's an alpha. I have it all set. I moved 10,000 miles for this marriage to Australia. I get here and discover I married the same guy. Like you can't, like you just need a mic to drop it. Like you're like, oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Because there was a 9-year gap in those marriages. Like I spent the time, I spent the money, I spent the effort, and I did the same thing. And that's when I realized, you know what? It's not them. It's me. I have a pattern. And it is not the people, it is my pattern. My pattern keeps calling in the same circumstances over and over. And it's just time for me to own it and fix it.
Wow, that's so the whole thing about it's not the people, it's the pattern, like the most quotable quote from a psychological point of view. I'm always encouraging my clients to look for past patterns because there's so much wisdom. You have a pattern for a reason. It's not because you're nuts. It's not because something's terribly wrong with you. It means that something needs your attention. And when we can give that thing, and of course, as a good alpha, as a hero child, as a, I call these, it's similar but different, where high functioning codependence
Mhm.
is really in a lot of ways could describe at least some of the qualities of what you describe as an alpha woman, because the highly capable piece makes the reason I made it high functioning codependency is because they didn't identify with codependency. They're like, what are you nuts? I'm doing everything. Hello? What? Everyone's dependent on me, lady. Like it's not me on them. And so I was like, yes, but I saw this new breed of codependency. So your work is very aligned and very interesting to me, being so specific to this population. And I imagine alpha women who find your work, we're so grateful, because when you're so good at negotiating the world and figuring out systems and getting what you want, there's a certain level that I've observed, and I'm curious, Tanya, what you've observed in women with these qualities, that it's embarrassing to them that they could figure out all the other things, but that love is eluding them in some way. So have you had a similar experience?
Um, I don't have enough hands to raise. So yes, not just like I said in my own life and my clients, everyone around me. Well, what I find is that, and you know this because of your professional background, often called the imposter syndrome. Alphas are just, we might as well just, I should start the clothing brand, the alpha. Hello, imposter syndrome. Good morning. I'm going to master you.
Yep.
We push so hard because we have to make everything on the outside look so good. And we're this hot mess inside, and we feel so responsible. We feel so broken, and we feel so afraid to share it with anyone. And this is where marriage trips us up, because we're the best at everything. Look, I'm just going to say it. We're amazing. When we look at other women and we compare ourselves, no, we shouldn't. Yes, we do. We
Hmm.
compare ourselves and we think, how can she have better love than me when I have this and that and this and this and that and that and this? That doesn't make sense. And when we finally do get married, I'm an expert in what I call the alpha beta marriage, because my alpha, your high functioning codependence,
Hmm.
this is a universal thing. It's a balancing problem. The alpha, which is a woman who is too much in her masculine, too much in her analysis, that's her survival tactic, will attract a man who is too much in his feminine, who is too much in withdrawal, avoidance, denial, delay.
All right,
And
hold up,
that balance.
hold up, because that's so good. So, wow, this is a little bit blowing my mind right now. You're saying the alpha woman, and again, we're talking about qualities. We're talking about the way you handle the world, the way you interact, your idea of problem solving, your go-to tools. That if you're an alpha woman, there is too much of the forward motion, the get it done, the doing, right? And you then attract the same way, because we could also talk about this in respect to over and under functioning
Yes.
in
Yes.
relationships, right? All right, that's so good. Keep going. I just wanted to just highlight it for a moment because I think that there are a lot of women in particular who listen or watch this episode and really feel like I haven't been able to put that in words, what Tanya just said, but I feel like I've experienced it in my life or I am experiencing it. So let's talk about how do we remedy some of these things? How do we save a marriage if we are an alpha female and we married our opposite? The thing that attracted us is now pissing us off. What do we do?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay. And I'm going to help you. So, ladies, this is the part in the interview I always tell people, pull your car over. Okay. Go in the bathroom in the house, lock the door, pretend you're taking a bath. You need to listen to Terri. First thing I want you to know is you're not doomed, because I thought you were. I did. When I got out of my alpha beta marriage after having done everything I could do, I decided, oh, these just don't work. I thought I just have to go get myself into a better place and find myself an alpha man stronger than me. This was my plan. It's the plan of many women, even though they're not using the terminology. And so I found my mate. I thought, oh, I've got this. You cannot do this. There are patterns and laws in the universe. You are going to be balanced. If you are too far this way, you will attract someone who is too far this way, because source, universe, God, whatever term you want to use, wants to bring you into balance. And I didn't think these marriages would work until I got my second one, until I was drowning and I was falling apart. Until I had to save myself, I had absolutely no interest in doing this work. So, yes, I want to tell you how you can do it.
Yeah, tell us how you did it. I mean, you already did it. Amazing.
I did. This is crazy to me. And that was the birth of my company, The Art of Self-Rescue. And that's the secret. It's the art of self-rescue. The analogy I use is, if you're struggling in a marriage, there's two people drowning. And never in the history of ever has one drowning person turned to another drowning person and saved them. It's not going to happen. So you're looking at your husband and you're saying, you did this and you disappointed me, because I know what happened, dearest. I know that you married him and he changed. I know that he was a certain way, and then you got married and he looked more alpha, and then poof, this beta soft creature who is your emotional opposite just popped up out of nowhere. And now you're like, you are drowning me. You're killing me. You're so frustrated and angry and hurt and abandoned and betrayed. And remember, you're this hot mess on the inside and put together on the outside. This is the person that you showed your true hot mess to. And he ran. What you have to do is you actually have to save yourself. The worst thing you can do in a struggling marriage, I'm going to say this carefully so you believe me, is to keep trying to save your marriage. Saving your marriage is kind of like, when people say we need to increase corporate responsibility. There's no such thing. Mm-hmm. Corporations are a group of people. If you want a corporation to be more responsible, you need the people inside of it to be more responsible. Yep. You want a marriage to be healthy, you need the people inside to be healthy, and you can't change, alter, or fix him. You can only do that for you. So we have to get you super, super focused on just you.
Which is really, I imagine, and from my years of being a psychotherapist, incredibly challenging and threatening in a different way. Because we can take on all the other things. Yes. And give me a task. I find this with the alpha women in my courses. They're all, they do everything faster than anyone else. They're like, okay, so what's next? I'm ready to have I'm going to start drawing boundaries with people. I'm like, hello, we're not there yet. You're not ready. Trust me. They're like, no, but there's got to be something else I could be doing. I'm like, how about just being? How about sitting? How about looking in? They're like, oh my God, no, please don't make me do that. So in the saving of self, you're really talking about doing the work. Is that right? Doing your own work, understanding your patterns, your origin story, as you would say. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. I do a lot with trust because our core wound is abandonment. And that really, when you go underneath that, that's just trust. We just learned not to trust. And when you learn not to trust, the biggest horrible wound on that is you learn not to trust you. So you don't trust your ability to pick the relationship, to pick the job, to pick the business venture, to pick the business partner, to trust how you're parenting. When you don't trust
Mm.
yourself, you don't trust your God. Alphas even tell God what to do. We sit and decide the way we want things to go. And then it doesn't go that way. We're like, oh, I don't like how this is going. I better control it more.
Mm. So for you personally, how was it to shift from, I would say it's binding anxiety. It's like holding anxiety together with all this illusion of control, the attempts of control, the overfunctioning, the overdoing, the overgiving. So how did you move, or how do you teach women to move from doing to being?
To doing to being. You know, it's funny. I completely love your work because it's so funny. I believe anything that's true is true and truth never conflicts. So that's why our work overlaps so well.
Hmm.
I call it OA, over alphaing. So I'm like, hey, don't over alpha this. They get in there and they want to over alpha something. Honestly, it is very rare that I've met an alpha that didn't have to bottom, that didn't have to break.
Mm.
I had to break. And honestly, I think the universe thought the only way I could break, because I was so incredibly strong, was to move me 10,000 miles from my support system, from my friends, from my family, put me in a foreign culture, put me with no friends,
Yeah.
and then have my needs come up, and then have my needs not be met, and have me be ashamed of my needs.
Mm.
I had to learn that I couldn't receive what I wouldn't first give me.
Mm.
And I kept demanding it, and I begged and I cried and I convinced, and I wanted to coach and I wanted to all these different things, and it just won't work. So the biggest thing you do is you start telling yourself the truth about the things in you that you don't want to tell the truth about.
Mm.
Because those are the parts in you, and you're a therapist, you know what I'm talking about. Those are the parts of you that you've abandoned and rejected. So most alphas, for instance, do not identify as being overly feminine. They're not fluffy girls, you know. I have eyelashes on, that's a miracle. You know, it's like, wow, you know, they're not this super, you know, it's like stilettos. I look at them, they're pretty. I can't wear them. We look at other women that are feminine and we tend to be in judgment because that's the part of ourselves we rejected, and
Mhm.
we had to survive. We cut off the part that wasn't getting approval and that wasn't keeping us safe.
Right.
And this is a process of going back and going, wait a second, no part of me is unworthy. I have to
Right.
tell the truth about what happened to me. And you know, you know this.
No, it's so good though, because again, in talking about the parts that we've disavowed, the parts that are cut off, sometimes this is talked about as shadow work. It's
Mhm.
sort of integrating both sides and allowing ourselves to be human. But again, even though you don't use this language per se, I don't think there is a really some inner child stuff, which it's so interesting. It's like when I first started doing this, before I was a therapist, and I'd read about the inner child work, and I was sort of like, that sounds like crap. Like inner child, I don't get it. Like what is that? That sounds so. There was something so trite about it, or woo
Mhm.
woo, or something. Then I became a therapist, and I was like, wow, this is like so real. This is so incredibly important. All of us have this. So I love the idea of what you're teaching and what you teach about reclaiming. You're right. Tanya, every part of ourselves is worthy. And how can we change anything? Even the parts that we don't, let's say, like,
Right.
when, going through this process in my life and all the years of therapy I've had, I mean, as a client, let's say the impatience, the whatever the things are that I didn't like, there was reasons I was that way. And when there is a deeper understanding, right, and compassion for self, you're like, it's okay. It is okay. So if someone is in a situation right now in a marriage that they feel like they're trying to save and they don't know, so can you give them some clues for some sort of damaging patterns maybe that they can look out for? Or
So, and it's going to be hard for you to see it, but trust me, it's there. I want you to look for where you are not feeling your emotions, you are thinking your emotions. I remember reading a book and it was something like, the woman felt her something or another in her stomach. And I thought, I don't feel my emotions. I mean, I'm aware, oh, I'm upset, and oh, I'm afraid, and oh, I'm this or that. Your head has literally co-opted the entire process. And there's head and heart, there's fear and love. That's it. That's all. That's all. So when you are in your head, which is also going to be in your masculine, you're in your analysis, you are so far away from your feelings and your intuition. What saves marriages is when you get the polarity right, when you get the balance right. When a woman is in her emotions and her feelings, that is what draws a man to his correct mode, which is to protect and to provide. A woman is giving her trust and respect, and he is triggered. If he is not unhealthy, he is triggered to protect and provide. And what happens is alphas don't show any needs. So I want you to look where you're not needing anything, where it's always, I can do it, I've got it. If he goes to do something, you're going to correct him, you're going to guide him. And now I know he's going to mess it up. Okay. I know he's going to get the hotel that you didn't like to stay in last time and the bad rental car. And he's not going to realize that if he doesn't call the daycare early, that they'll close. I know that. But it's actually more important that he feel respected than it is that you be right. You heard that phrase, would you rather be right or happy?
right. Or
Alphas
right
are,
or loving or right. Yep.
yeah. I was asked that in my first marriage. I was married in a Catholic church, and I remember the priest, and he set us both down. He said, would you rather be right or happy? And I thought, well, I'm telling the truth. I would rather be right. And, there was a little look on the priest's face, and now I know what that look was.
He
He's
was
like,
like
oh,
doomed.
yeah, exactly.
Doomed.
Okay, just stamp this one.
Except this one not
No, this
happening.
is not gonna work. And when I'm talking to someone, I'm like, if I can get you, one of my superpowers is I spot patterns like that. So I can help you surface and see those patterns, and then you can look at them and you can start telling the truth. Like I can tell you that before my husband, I must have had, it was either 7 or 9 men meet me, fall in love with me, and disappear. Like Terri, like seriously, are there that many in the world? Are there? I'm not sure. It's like, I mean, what, and you talk to your girlfriends and they're like, oh, yes, he did this and he was so wrong. And I'm like, you know what? But it's actually me. It's like, how can I find that many men? It's like that movie, The English Patient. I imagine there was a cave in the desert somewhere with like 7 men that are tied and bound, and they're all hopping toward the entrance. Like, I have to get back to Tanya. Help! I've been kidnapped.
Right. But it's so insightful to that's the moment where we go, hey, the common denominator in my life experience is
Mm,
me. And clients, there's this thing that's called complementary projection, where people
mm,
think that other people all have the same experience. We over assume that others are like us, and it's
mm,
complementary if we think that they're like us and it's a good thing, or that they're like us and like they have the same skills as we do. We kind of can minimize our own skills by being like, but everyone can do that. You're like, no, there's something really powerful about understanding what you're saying, that
mm,
this is unique to us, and that your pattern, following the pattern, uncovering the origin story, allowing yourself to feel those feelings, not think those thoughts. Because again, back to something you said, Tanya, you were like, thinking is here, feeling is down here, far away. And the intellectualization, like as a therapist, a lot of times I would have alpha women clients a lot,
mm,
and they're harder to break, quote unquote, not in a terrible way, but because they're so friggin' smart.
mm,
And that there's this psychological defense of intellectualization where we're so used to, because I certainly identify as all of this. I just wouldn't use that language because it's not the way that I teach it, but it absolutely exists from the origin story to the pattern to the figuring it out. And I don't think if I'd gotten married in my 20s, there's no way would I have figured it out. I waited until I was 35 to get married. My husband was 45. We both had a shit ton of therapy before that, which creates a much more balanced or flexible or capable union when the shit hits the fan to be able to have these conversations. But I think that for those of you listening and watching, I mean, first of all, tell everyone where they can find you.
Oh, well, you can find me anywhere online at The Art of Self-Rescue, but I do want everyone to go get the resource that I've provided for them to help them understand their origins. So go to
Yay.
artofselfrescue.com/origins with an S. artofselfrescue.com/origins with an S.
All right. So you guys know that all that stuff is going to be in the show notes. You can follow Tanya on Insta. I do. You can find her all over the interweb. But I'm actually so excited about the gift. And thank you so much for thinking of us and for allowing us to sort of start this journey, because of course it does start at the beginning. And it's so interesting, Tanya, people will say about like therapy, like, why do I have to go back? Why do I don't want to talk about what happened in third grade? It was so long ago. What does it matter? Like it was decades ago. And I'm all like, dude, trust me. If there was a way to do this and not going back to the scene of the crime, I
Yes.
would have already figured it out 25 years later. Like I would literally know how to do it. There kind of is no way. The origin story that you talk about is so important. It is the foundation for locating the key to your liberation, is what that would be my 2 cents on that.
That's, the only way out is through. And the origin story is what sets that default struggle pattern. That is where you learned your survival tactics. And really, all an alpha woman, all an overfunctioning or overachieving, high achieving woman that's having problems in these areas, only thing that's happened is she just got stuck in the survival tactics that she started when she was 5. That's all that's happened here. She's just stuck in hers. And her guy, the guy that she attracts, is stuck in his. He usually had an alpha mom. Alpha moms, by the way, create alpha girls and they create beta men.
Yep.
So that's why he's that way.
That makes so much sense when you think about it. But I think that for a lot of people, women in particular listening, or men as well, the light bulb and the how good it feels to sort of be seen and be like, wow, okay, so what I'm experiencing is an actual thing. It doesn't mean I'm terrible at love. It doesn't mean I'm wrong at this. That there is a path, that you're literally, Tanya, laying out a path like, hey, you can follow this path for deeper self-understanding, and perhaps you can then shift the behavior as you have successfully done and probably help thousands of women. Now, in your business, this high conflict divorce lawyer, that's what you do. That's why you are Tanya Dyer Esquire, although we don't say that here, but I think it's awfully cool. So how do you, just a question about this, then I'm going to ask you some questions about boundaries and then we'll be done. How do you, when women come in, how do you weave in all of this knowledge that you have that is really psychological and emotional intelligence knowledge into the process of helping them?
So I practiced law for so long until I realized I had a breakthrough aha moment when I realized that, oh, it's us, it's me. Like people were coming to me to get me to change their external reality without changing their internal reality. And the moment I realized that that could not be done, I realized that I had to shift from my profession. So, I help my alphas full time now because I realized I couldn't stay in the practice of law because all I was really doing was coaching my clients. I'm like, hey, we're
Right.
paying you an awful lot of money to coach us. I'm like, trust me, this is the most valuable part of your legal service. So
Seriously.
that's what I do.
Got it. So really, so now I'm sorry, I misunderstood. So you're full-time
Tag
coaching.
team. Mhm.
Oh, that's amazing. So really you're helping people perhaps not end up
Oh my gosh.
needing a divorce lawyer.
I don't even use this word normally, but I'm going to use this word. I'm so much cheaper than a divorce Because I promise you, if you're a high achieving woman, your divorce is going to cost, I've done the numbers, about $117,000. When you work out legal fees and counseling and splitting houses and health insurances and stuff, I promise you, you want to do this work on you. And if you do, even if you have to get the divorce, it'll be a different divorce.
Yes. And you're also laying the foundation for a different future,
Mm. And you're
right?
saving your children, because otherwise your children get to model what you do. If you're religious, they say the sins of the father are visited on the son, but
Mm,
everything is a pattern. They don't hear what you say, they see what you do. They see how you treat yourself. They see how you put others' needs ahead of yours all the time. They see
mm.
how you roller coaster on love, and that's what they take.
Oh, wow. That is so true. Okay. So I have a boundary question to ask you. I ask everyone this at the end of the podcast interview. Personally, what has been your most challenging boundary struggle and how did you overcome it?
I was thinking about this because I knew your question. And what I realized is it was the pattern I had with my female friendships. Oh, I call them friendships. Yeah, they were not. They were more like protectorates. They were more like,
Mm,
here was the country of Tanya, and then people would come and they'd camp on my land, and I would be like the benevolent Lord who helped them. And they didn't help me necessarily, but I always helped them. And I would maintain these relationships until some horrible, ridiculous disaster would blow up in my face. So the one I can think of is during my first marriage, I had a miscarriage. And there aren't a lot of words for that. And so as I told everyone around me, I said, the only thing I need you to do is to just not ask me about it until I'm ready to speak. Every single person in my life honored that, except my best friend. Just on and on and on. And I couldn't understand it. And I actually excused it until the moment where about a week later, she sent me an email complaining that I hadn't checked on her because she had the flu. And I'm sitting there, and I had to show it to a couple of people. I'm like, can you read this and make sure it says, I know you've had this miscarriage and all blah, 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 but I've had the flu and I felt really bad. And I thought, okay, why did I think she was my best friend?
mm,
That was my pattern. It's this pattern of overgiving. I had to buy the love. I had to show up. I had to
yep.
prepay.
Yeah.
And I had that pattern. And that's because I didn't have that boundary of being able to ask for what I needed if I was afraid I wouldn't get it or I'd be punished.
Mm.
And that is the one that I've had to break. And I actually have done it in my process with the art of self-rescue.
Amazing. My God, I love that answer so much. And I cannot tell you how many women write into me about conflicts with female friendships being more devastating,
Mm.
as devastating or more devastating than
Yeah,
romantic relationships, where
absolutely.
it's because we're so close or we're trying to be so close. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here. I super loved this interview, and I'm so excited that I've been turned on to your work. So I just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing in the world. I can't wait to hear what people have to say and what people learn from this episode. So Tanya Dyer, thank you so much. You guys know where to find her. We have a special gift at artofselfrescue.com/origins with an S, which is so exciting because don't you want to know your own origin story? I know you do. I cannot wait to jump on that link and figure mine out. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Tanya.
Thank you very much, Terry. God bless you for everything you're doing for us.
Right on.